Greetings and salutations. I'm here with my review of Project Hail Mary, a movie that is arriving in theaters with a lot of hype around it, a lot of buzz, and certainly a lot of anticipation, especially from people who know and love the book. I am not one of those people. Never read it. I heard really good things about it. All I know is that I've just watched a movie that I think is really wonderful, and I highly recommend, and I am excited for more people to see and to experience this movie because it really kind of delivers it all. Ryan Gosling stars here, has a mild-mannered middle school teacher, but he's really a scientific genius. There's a reason for that. Who is recruited for a Project Hail Mary, finding out that basically the Earth is in danger. All life is in danger. Something is happening with our sun. Something's happening with pretty much all stars that they can see out there in the universe. And so he is sent along on this mission to try to find out what's going on at the only star where this is not happening. Hopefully, they can find out the reason for all of this and save our sun and therefore save the Earth. I guess the shorthand for this movie would probably be Sunshine, the Danny Boyle movie, meets The Martian. And yes, there's some connective tissue beyond that as far as what is happening here. But all I can say is, yeah, it might remind you of some of those things, but it also feels like a very unique experience. I think the emotion of this movie, the mood of this movie feels like its own thing. So even though, yeah, we've seen variations on a story like this, I think that what it's doing still feels fresh and exciting in its own way. Lord and Miller directed this movie, which was one of the main reasons to be excited going in for someone like me who has not read the book, because they don't miss. These are the guys who made the 21 Jump Street movies, Lego movie. They made, of course, the Into the Spider-Verse movies. I know they're not the directors of those, but they're hands-on producers and writers on those films. And yeah, it's like everything they've done has been great, and everything they've done has transcended sort of the concept where you think, oh, maybe that could be good, or maybe that would be terrible. A Lego movie, why would that be good? And then it's great. And this is the first time they're directing something they didn't write, except that they have a fantastic writer on board. Again, everyone on this movie, pedigree-wise, made me excited for it. So Drew Goddard writing the script, I was excited because I remember when he was writing for Buffy and Angel and Alias and Lost, and his episodes were like standout episodes. Like, oh, Drew Goddard wrote this one. It's going to be a good one. And since then, he's gone on to write Cloverfield and co-write and direct Cabin in the Woods. And he got an Oscar nomination for co-writing The Martian, which was another movie based on a book by Andy Weir, who is the author of Project Hail Mary. All these guys working together, it completely works. It works the way you want it to, as far as the experience of this movie. And yeah, Lord and Miller's background is in comedy, and this movie is very funny. There is a lot of great humor in this movie, but it's not all played for laughs. The situation is played kind of for the absurd situation it is, which is, Ryan Gosling's character, Grace, he wakes up and he doesn't really remember. He's short-term amnesia, doesn't even remember why he's out there in space. He's the only one on this ship alive. And so he's kind of trying to figure out what's happening. We're getting flashbacks to fill us in. And there's some very funny stuff, dark comedy, but also just sort of, this is a crazy situation, embracing that. But it also looks at the fact that this is a very sort of striking situation that also would chill you to your core. And it's not going for like that dark tone, but it's not ignoring the emotion either. And there are some scenes early on where I was laughing a lot, and then suddenly it hit me. Like, there are these moments of him just looking at things that he finds of the crew that have not survived this journey, and he doesn't even remember them. But there's a connection there, him kind of understanding their humanity. This is a movie that is really kind of lovely in its depiction of our relationship with each other and what it means to kind of find kinship in some way with someone else. And of course, that brings me to the core relationship here with Rocky. Now, I know, since the first trailer for this movie came out last year, people who are fans of the book were upset that the trailers were revealing this movie has an alien in it. I'm talking about it because it's been in all the trailers, so I feel like it's fair game to talk about it. I can't tell you what the experience would be like of reading the book and not knowing that. Here they decided that it would be front and center in the promotions. I don't think watching the movie, I didn't feel like, oh no, I wish I didn't know that. So again, I'm sure it's valid for the book reader. But I think in the movie, it's such a wonderful depiction. Of course, you're going to think of E.T. because anytime you have sort of this connection between a human and an alien and how they kind of like find each other in this special way, that is going to be a touchstone. And I think that is one that really is apt here. But Rocky, again, is such an interesting design of a creature. And the fact that he is made out of rocks, hence the name that Grace gives him, but he's kind of spider-like in form. And it's a mixture of puppetry that brings him to life. There is a voice we hear, which is coming through a computer in universe in the movie. It's all provided by James Ortiz as far as he was the lead puppeteer, but he was also the voice of Rocky. The thing about Rocky is he completely works as a character. And I think the movie kind of rests on whether he works or not. Because if he didn't work, then it would all fall apart. But you completely can invest in Rocky as a character, and you can completely invest in the dynamic between Grace and Rocky. Because so much of the movie is just the two of them. I mean, a lot of the movie is just Ryan Gosling on his own, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But when it's the two of them, you connect to them as characters. You connect to their relationship, their friendship. And it's so easy to think about the version of this movie where that didn't work and be so grateful how well it does. And the fact that I was invested, I was wrapped up in it all, and I was distraught depending on what was happening and worried and loving moments between them. It really is something special that they've achieved here in a way that, is difficult for a movie to do, but when it does, it's just sort of that magic moment. And Ryan Gosling, who has an interesting career because he has been a great dramatic actor, but he also has this comedic side of him that is been a standout as well. The Nice Guys, as always. I will recommend The Nice Guys. If you've never seen it, you're missing out. He has transformed himself into sort of a lovably goofy hunk in a lot of ways, but he's also a great dramatic actor, and this movie lets him do it all. It really does, because it's so much of a one-man show or a one-man, one alien show. And he is carrying a lot of it comedically, of these scenes of him by himself, really not knowing what to do, really overwhelmed by the situation and the comedy that comes from that. But also the fact that he has a lot of reasons to be freaking out, understandably. And there are moments where we do see sort of that raw emotion. It is a really excellent performance, and I think through the years he's given a lot of great performances, but there's a lot of things about this that I think are kind of a true standout. I mean, I think this movie in general, but also Ryan Gosling's performance is just kind of like prepare to feel all the emotions from Project Hail Mary, because it does take you on this great ride. I do want to mention Sandra Hüller, who's always great and, was nominated for 2 Oscars the same year, which is a rarity. She's fantastic here as well in these flashbacks, sort of showing the dynamic here of how Grace came to be in the situation, but also what his relationship was like with this woman who has a very tough job and a burden on her shoulders of what she's trying to do, and what it means and the sacrifices she's asking of people. And there is a great scene. I know they've been talking it up a little bit. Sometimes I do wish they wouldn't say as much as they do in the promotions. But there's a scene where she takes the mic at a certain event, and that is a wonderful scene that really kind of gets you emotionally. So she's a wonderful part of this movie as well. The effects are wonderful. Rocky himself, again, can't say enough about him as a creation and what they did to bring into life with puppetry. And of course, there are digital effects in this movie as well. It all really blends seamlessly. The environment on the ship, which, is very important because it's our main setting and it's most of the movie is on Grace's ship, and it looks cool. And of course, you're going to think of some famous movies, and I think there are some purposeful nods there to 2001. There's some doors that reminded me of Cloud City doors from Empire Strikes Back. And yet it all also has its own atmosphere. There's a room that it's not a holodeck, but there's a room that's almost like a screen room where you can sit and surround yourself with screens and watch, sort of imagery of Earth that it's kind of, I think, meant to be sort of almost a Zen place for people on this ship to get away to. And the imagery in there is used in a really lovely way. And how you can see it would be a place, if you're in this cold steel environment, that you would need to at least imagine yourself in a different environment, as Grace does here. So yeah, I did love this movie. I went into it wondering, is this hype for real? People are really talking up this movie, but you know, it clicked in pretty quickly, and I think it really does sort of grab you take you along and make you love these characters, make it very worthwhile to spend the time with our two main characters and the story between them. So that is my big recommendation for Project Hail Mary, which is going to be in theaters on March 20th, and which I keep wanting to call Project Greenlight. In my mind, it's Project Hail Mary, but when I say the words, I want to say Project Greenlight. And I had to start this video a couple times for that reason because I said the wrong title. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, I know your reality show hasn't been on in a while, but good job with branding, I guess, because when I say project, I also want to say green light. But the movie you should go see is Project Hail Mary. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with the experience that they go through watching this film. I would also be very happy with the experience of you liking and subscribing if you can. That'd be great. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.